Well, I just wanted you to just start it off by like introducing yourself, what you do, who you are.
Yeah,
before
for
you introduce
sure, for
yourself.
sure. Appreciate you having me part of the first episode of, I guess, your podcast slash magazine. So it'll be awesome to join the journey. My name's Nick, obviously founder of Collegium. Started this project in 2015. It's been a passion project as a sneakerhead, going into, real life and living the dream of having your own sneaker brand. It's been a long journey. It's crazy always to think about it. It's almost 10 years now. And we're sitting in the first flagship shop. And as you know, we're opening several more, 2 to 3 more by the end of this year. So we got a lot coming. The journey continues from the garage to keep being carried at Nordstrom to having our first shop and now to opening the next 3 shops. So super sick, man.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think you're definitely still like a small business, I feel like, and you take a lot of different caps. You mentioned it before, like you do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What do you like doing the most? Like creative, business? What do you think you like doing the most?
Honestly, when you start this, you don't really know what you're good at. And I think for me, the most important or my favorite part of it all is just like connecting with people. And that's how it's always been. Like for me, collecting sneakers and just like you're talking about all the guys here, it's like all your friends from elementary and some of them put you on to fashion, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that was like the early journeys for me. Just like, I fell in love with sneakers, and the people that I connected with was just people I was camping outside of lines for sneakers and things like that. So for the brand, I guess being on the other side of it, where people are waiting outside for sneakers, is like even just connecting with people, or people that come through the shop like yourself. You come in on a random Thursday and just like, yo, let's just chop it up. I don't take any like of that for granted, because we're at the end of the day we're working and we're trying to service people and give them the best experience. People are choosing to spend their hard-earned dollars with us. So for the least that we could do is just like really be in front of it and just like, yo, like I want to make sure your experience is as it should be and the best that we could possibly do. So
For sure.
I think that's the retail side of it, but that's like the enjoyable side for me. Like when we sell a single pair, even if it's a single pair and it doesn't mean much, but it's just like, to make someone like that hasn't heard of the brand, like, yo, this was a super dope experience. I didn't even know that much about shoes, and I actually really prefer these over whatever else I was going to buy. And just having them enjoy it and not even kind of like nonchalantly thinking like, oh, I bought a $200-300 pair of sneakers, and it's like, yo, like this was the experience and the story and the community was dope. Where that was kind of something I didn't even pay mind to. Yeah,
that's cool. What does Collegium mean to you? I'm interested. Like, where'd you get that name? Where's it all come from?
Yeah, Collegium. It's pretty simple. No one ever asks what it is. They're always just like Collegium, Collegium, Collegium.
Yeah.
It's always like something that looks really hard to pronounce, but it's pretty much as it's read.
Yeah.
So it's Collegium. The basics of it is, for me, I always wanted to start a brand that had a community behind it. And you'll hear that word or you'll hear that term over and over again, because community is super important for my brand. You guys been in the pop-ups. You guys know how we operate. It's like we're community first, customer first, and metrics and numbers second, really. Every single one of our pop-ups, we usually have a partner that will allow us to give away free pairs to the community or Discord or things like that. So that's the first part of it. So Collegium in ancient Rome met a secret society of 3 or more, could have been passionate about academics, painting, art, grave robbing, politics, anything like that. And we redefined it as a secret society or a group of individuals that are product enthusiasts and share a common interest. So that is our modern day 20th century Collegium of product enthusiasts, specifically footwear enthusiasts. And for me, it was just important, like that secret society can kind of be a synonym for family, community, things like that. And that's what we are today, and how we generate that. So that's the meaning of Collegium.
That's cool. I love that. You just came back from Paris Fashion Week. How was that?
Yeah, so this is our 3rd Paris Fashion Week. Paris is always an interesting scene. Today, I think I overheard you're going to Vegas or something like that.
Vegas, I'm trying to go to the New York Fashion Week and stuff.
So yeah, it's pretty much the new era of, I don't know, I hate to say it, like Instagram, everyone wants to be a part of the convention centers, a part of this, but it really is the center right now, where all the brands, all the B2B, which is business to business, where the buyers are, and where you're showcasing your work. So we just rented out a little showroom, I don't know, you could say 800 to 1,000 square feet, where we just showcased our spring summer 25 collection. So we plan out nearly 6 months to a year in advance, and that's very typical, very normal of the fashion calendar. And we just showed our first collection. I felt really good about it. We have 4 or 5 new silhouettes that aren't even in this store that we debuted in Paris. In the humblest way, like we have a great, amazing sales team that booked a bunch of appointments, and almost every appointment was really happy to see the direction of the brand. So we're opening a lot of new accounts globally in a global perspective. I don't want to disclose some of the accounts yet until the ink is signed on a piece of paper. So we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah,
feels like positive, really great about what happened down there.
What do you think about? I was talking to the friends at Open Air. I think they went out to Paris last year or this year, and they were saying Paris is like so different than the U.S. and that like they were mentioning everyone just eats at a table. Like you don't ever see someone like it's frowned upon to eat like while you're driving or while you're like moving. Like it's like very much like a lot more slower paced, I guess.
Yeah, so, I think the culture in Paris or almost anywhere outside of the US, we're very head down, hustle and bustle, longest work hours. In Europe, they have a summer siesta where they're taking a month off, and I'm sure Paris does something of that like. Dinners start at 9 and they end at 12 or 1. You know, you're really sitting, enjoying food, enjoying time. And I think it's an emphasis on enjoying conversation, community, and people, which I feel like out here we've created a work culture where it's go, go, go. So whatever I can grab and go, 25-minute fast food and get out. That's kind of like the culture that we've created. But anywhere outside the world, I think it's very accurate to see like, oh, it's a 3-hour dinner at the least. It starts late. You're having a drink before you're having dinner. It's a 3-course meal. Then you're having another drink and an espresso to close it off. So it can run for 4 hours. Like it happens in Paris. It happens in Italy in our production city. Happens almost everywhere outside the world besides us, you know.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You're from New Mexico, right?
Yeah, born out there, but predominantly raised in California.
Okay. When did you move out here?
I moved out here, I forgot, in the early 2000s. So I was like 7 years old. So I grew up just as a child in New Mexico. And then kind of came out here.
Got it.
You know, really got my bearings out here.
Awesome. What does Orange County like mean to you? I wanna pick your brain. You know, you've been all over the world. You've been to Paris. You've been to so many other places too, Italy. Kind of what I just want to know, like, what does Orange County mean to you? How important is Orange County to you, and how does it compare to everywhere else that you've been?
Yeah, I've never really answered that question, but in the simplest way, it's just home, honestly. So for me, I know I'm very fortunate. I think Orange County is like one of the top 5 most expensive places to live in the US, maybe even the world. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me, but it's home, man. I grew up out here. That's where, you know, my passion for footwear kind of like started. Later went into, fashion, I guess you could say, working at Nordstrom, but it was just a continued passion for footwear because I worked on the men's shoe floor. So growing up playing sports in California, especially, I played basketball. So that's where I really got into sneakers, was just playing basketball. And they're like, you know, you want to have the coolest kicks on the court. That evolved into just going home after school, you know, clicking on certain websites like ISS Forums, Nike Talks, and like falling in love studying Nike SB back when it was super hot in the early 2000s. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know how that synonymous it is with Orange County, but I think just being so close to LA and it being kind of like a sneakerhead city, being adjacent to it and having that overflow kind of like created that foundation for it. But Orange County, even for me, like it's home. So like when we thought to open our first store, we like, let's just do it in our backyard. And we had this amazing success that you were able to witness, where this was supposed to be a pop-up. I think that sign outside says we're only here for a couple months, which was November to January, and it ended up being doing so well that we're out here and it's July of the next following year, and kind of just sprouted it. So our home base acted as a springboard into stuff that we're doing now, which is physical retail. So as you know, I think this is where we'll speak on just like we're opening a store in Arts District LA, we're opening a store in Boston, we're opening a store in a major mall. And that literally sprouted out by just starting off in your home base and, you know, your hometown, and just kind of figuring out like, yeah, this is where we feel like our support system is, and we feel like the demographic is able to kind of like crush it with us. So
for sure,
that's what we did there.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I want to pick your brain too on, do you think you would be where you're at now if you started this not in Orange County and maybe any like other city, not LA, maybe just what if you stayed in New Mexico? Do you think you'd still be able to be where you're at now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question that I don't think, it's hard to say, and this will be just like off the dome answering it, but I don't think it matters where you are, but it matters about how passionate you are with it. For me, I hope, and my answer will be in the humblest way, it's like, yeah, I think I could have done it anywhere just because I loved it that much and I was willing to do whatever it took. Like we were talking in the beginning of this conversation was like, I've been doing this for 10 years and let's just say the first 70% of this journey, it was just crickets and I was working 3 jobs just trying to keep it afloat. So, you know, I don't think just because we were in Orange County or in Southern California, it was a launch pad for it to happen,
for sure.
you know? So if it was a launch pad, shoot, we'd be in year 2 and we'd be a lot bigger than we're at, you know? So it's hard to define it. So like when I look at my journey, it's like, hey, I was willing to do a lot of things, whether it's take shoes in my backpack and go to a convention center in Vegas, or I don't know. I think the first thing and the easiest example to kind of like solidify that answer and make it realistic, we didn't get our first big box door, which was Bloomingdale's in 2017, until I was on the other side of the earth in Italy, where I was doing a trade show in Italy in Florence. And I was like, hey, nice bread ones. Are those 2016s, 2011 bands, or 2001, like with the new book swoosh? And he was like, oh, like 2016. And he ended up being the buyer at Bloomingdale's. And I was literally on the other side of the world to meet our first buyer, which was in Bloomingdale's. So it had nothing to do with California. It had nothing to do with New York. It had nothing to do with Vegas. It had everything to do with just willingness. Like, I'm going to take a one-way ticket to Italy to do this trade show, put up a bunch of sneakers on a wire table and figure out how am I going to get this brand off the floor. And coincidentally being in one of the, I guess you could say starter kit brand names for big box doors, which is Bloomingdale's. You got Bloomingdale's, Saks, Nordstrom, and things like that. So I think that in itself kind of answers your question.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't because I was in California that allowed us to have our big box doors, because I was just willing to like, okay, I don't know what's out there. Just like you're going to Vegas, I don't know what's out there, but we got to figure out where the opportunity
for
is.
sure.
So
for sure.
That's kind of
interesting. Yeah. I think it's commendable because I think Orange County is in like a weird space. And I think my goal out of this is to really shed light on like how much there is in Orange County, how many creatives are actually in Orange County. Because I think it often gets overshadowed from LA just because it's so close. I think so many people that maybe start brands in Orange County use LA to just pick, oh, I'm an LA brand. Like I'm from LA, or I'll open a store in LA. And I think it's kind of commendable that, you're from Orange County and you decided to like stay to your roots and open a store here. Cause I think you could have taken the easy route per se and just open a store in LA. But I think it's super cool that you stay to your neighborhood and open like a store here. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've done both sides. We've done a pop-up in LA and we've done pop-ups in Orange County, Long Beach, and things like that. We're able to kind of like tap into both areas. We have a great fan base that's also in LA as well, which is literally 45 minutes away. So it's hard to separate the two, but for me, it just made more sense. And like, honestly, I think it's more of a convenience factor for me. It's like, if you guys know my style at the store is like, I'm here every day, 7 days a week. So it's like, I'm connecting with people. So I try to make it as convenient as possible. Like after studying at USC and living in LA, I just came back home to Orange County. And it's like, if I want to open the store, I want to be there every day. And, coincidentally, I live in Orange County, so I want to be out here when I work. So, yeah.
You got any favorite places in Orange County that you like to go to eat or hang out in?
Yeah.
Put some.
Not going to say the Lab. It's kind of corny.
Yeah. I like the Lab.
It's for me. It's like, not that the Lab is corny. It's for me because we're at the Lab.
All the time.
And I'm here all the time. So like, I mean, again, it's just convenience factor. Like I'll go to like just food hall plazas, just convenience. So I'll go to like Rodeo 39 or The Source and things like that. Great food. There's great food all across Orange County. So there's not really a favorite place because with Orange County, you can get to any great food place in 10 minutes, whether you hop on the 405 North or South. So yeah, Second and PCH is a cool plaza. It's like low key right now. Those are a couple of just spots off the top.
Yeah, that. You mentioned you grew up as a sneakerhead. I know you from working at Nordstrom, selling your entire sneaker collection to help fund the start of this brand. What kind of moments along your journey has helped pave to where you're at now? And I have a follow-up question I'm gonna ask after you answer this. But I'd like to know just like kind of what experiences, what knowledge have you gained over the years that kind of like paved to where you're at now?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a single point where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this because the knowledge I'm going to gain from it. But for me, it was just like a pure love. And it'll be like kind of answering your question to the adjacent side. It was just a pure love for footwear and traveling with footwear. So again, playing sports growing up, collecting basketball shoes, coincidentally Jordans and things like that, evolved into a love for footwear, sneakers specifically at that point in time. So first job, 15 and a half, I lived in Westminster. I went to Westminster High School. First job I'm going to do is go to the mall, walk across the hill. There was a Finish Line Foot Locker. I was like, name any shoe on this wall. I promise I'll know it and can tell you a little bit about it. My old boss, Anderson, shout out Anderson, because he ended up working here and just a really good friend now. He was just like pointed out at Air Max 90. It was like infrareds. And I was like, oh yeah, those are Air Max 90 infrareds, yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. What do you want to do here? I was like, I just want to work. I want to be in sneakers. I want to be the backdoor plug. Getting your first job at a sneaker shop, for me was super cool because I was, asking my mom, asking my older sister, can you take me to go line up for these Jordan 11s on December 23rd? They dropped right before Christmas. Everyone has a Jordan 11 story Christmas time. And that was kind of like the early beginnings of just collecting. And then while in school, after homework, go on Nike Talk, ISS, things like that, studying different shoes, and then going to dunk exchanges, going to meetups, buying rare stuff, collecting. At the time, Holy Grails was like nothing was over $1,000. And then it became this big business boom where StockX and, the phrases of business is booming and, the Benjamin Kick guys. And I wasn't, it went from forums to Facebook groups like, I don't know, I forget what the Facebook groups are, Shoe Game LA, I don't know, Shumanati was one of them, I don't know, a bunch of different things. And then IG started to come into it. And then the Facebook conventions, Boston Got Sold, things like that started happening. And then, it just got bigger and bigger. And for me, my footwear journey just kind of kept growing. I was on the early side of it. Even after working at the Foot Locker Finish Lines and being the plug there, back in the day, you would just line up and your homie would be like, yo, just get in line. I got your size. Don't say anything. And then you get to the front. And then it became to raffles. Then it became to computer bots. And then it became to this big old bulk buying deals. Like people pop off on their Facebook videos, like how much for the whole table, So that's the nature of the game. And, everyone, you just kind of got to grow with it. I kind of grew with it and grew adjacent to it. For me, I just loved product. I started finding out I just like product in general and specifically footwear. So, you graduate and you think, what's the next things I want to work at? I was working at Chase as private banker, but also working at Nordstrom on the men's shoe floor. And back in the day, Nordstrom used to make you wear suits all the time while selling on that floor. And that's where I fell in love with like dress shoes, like double monk straps, wearing combat boot with suits, derbies, Chelsea boots, whatever. And, I think everyone in their fashion journey or footwear journey, I think you guys yourself, you're like, okay, we started with sneakers. You're still at a consignment store, but then you start to experience and like other things like, oh, let me go check out some derbies. Let me go check out some penny loafers. People get curious and fashion and trends start to change where you're like, oh, I need to find a penny loafer. Penny loafers are dope. I need to find a derby. And then you start going. I see like my boy Oray has stuff. And I think there's a pair of Orays right in front of me, right? Yeah. So it's like you start discovering that through like micro influencers to influencers itself. And you figure out what your favorite brands on. There's heritage brands like Doc Martin. There's new brands like Oray. There's new brands like us. There's, I don't know, old school brands like Alden. There's old school brands. Just like there's so much, And me working at Nordstrom got a heritage studying. It was like you would get brand reps coming in explaining how their products are done. And that's where my eyes started opening from like, why are your $500 dress shoes more than my $85 pairs of Nike Air Force Ones, And then you start learning product. And for me, most people just like following trends or fashion. For me, even the way I sold at a Finish Line or a Nordstrom, it was just like product knowledge. And it's the same thing how we sell Collegium. Like, hey,
it's a story behind it.
Yeah, we don't need to be the coolest brand out there. We don't need to chase, the fashion kids. We just need to be like, hey, we believe we created a really good product at this price point. And that's what I fell in love with at Nordstrom when hearing from other brand owners is just like, hey, why does your product cost this much? And does this $800 designer one really should cost that much? Yes or no? And that's where I, kind of studied there. Ended up interning at a company called Pacific Shoe Company, where they were hand making dress shoes out of Spain, and just picking their brain. I would help out with product photos, things like that, and just be like, hey, like, why is this leather better than this leather? Why are these double monk straps more expensive than this? Why is the construction of that sneaker more expensive? So that's where my initial bearings really started, developing. And yeah. I don't even know where we're going.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah,
the journey goes so far back.
For sure. I think it's cool.
Falling in love with product, and that was like the journey of it. And for me, it was less about collecting at that time, and it was just like, yo, I really like product, and hopefully one day I want to create my own.
Yeah, I love that. My follow-up question was going to be, I think you've kind of mentioned like you've had a few full circle moments, you know, along this journey. Do you have like a favorite full circle moment that you've had?
No favorites. There's no favorites because it's always going to keep evolving. And I think the best part of having a brand is always looking, and I'm really bad at this, is celebrating the micro wins, but always looking forward of how, like, having that vision of like what's next for us. So I could tell you my next favorite moment is coming up in October, and that's something I've told you about, and I don't want to speak it out loud until it actually, the dotted lines are signed.
Yep.
But I think the coolest one, I think that people and myself really enjoy, and when you think about it, yes, just too many to name off the bat, or it's like, yeah, like I was a sneakerhead, that every sneakerhead or everyone that has collected sneakers or bought in sneakers, it would be so cool to design your own. Like we all sat on Nike ID and created colorways, you know, and that's a passion thing if you guys like that stuff. But for me, it's like, yeah, I think the initial moment of like, I've collected sneakers as I was a kid, whether it was playing sports or just collecting to collect and, you know, buy, sell, retrade. But having obviously my own sneaker brand, I guess now thinking about it, it's pretty cool. And we're very thankful, and I'm very thankful and appreciative. Like to have your own sneaker brand is one thing, but even like the pop-up here, I forget his name. I think it's Patrick, came out and he camps out at 11 p.m. and then everyone else sees it. And then they camp out 11 p.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to launch this store, which is our 5th pop-up. Would you think people are tired of camping out for the sneakers to come here and they're still like 300 strong camping out? And you're like, dang, we still did that. And then to drop a shoe and it sell out opening day after the 5th, 6th, 7th time you've dropped a bunch online. That's a full circle moment for me, camping out for a pair of, I don't know, other brand shoes.
Yeah. That's
and to come in here and be like, dang, people camp out for our stuff. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So
Cool to see.
I guess that's one of my favorite full circle.
For sure. I like that. You're almost at the 10-year mark for the brand, right?
Yeah.
I know you mentioned you took a big financial risk starting out. You mentioned that you sold your full entire sneaker collection, took some personal loans and stuff like that to start. And right off the bat, correct me if I'm wrong, you started manufacturing in Italy right off the bat. What made you decide to just go, oh, I'm just going to start a brand, or we're going to start manufacturing in Italy right away?
Yeah, the simplest way to answer that question is just kind of like, I knew a lot of people that had done brands like t-shirt brands and screen printing, and I dabbled in it in high school and middle school. And I'm like, if I'm going to do something, I want to do something that was, at the time, it still is very difficult. And I just like, oh, I don't want to do something that's just kind of lackluster where everyone's like, oh, he just went to a screen printer, or went to even Walmart and bought a iron-on kit, you know, printed on iron cut. It was like, I want to do this and take it seriously. It was for myself, and for the outside looking in, it's like, oh crap, like they're made in Italy, he's doing the real deal type thing. And yeah, for the, you know, my journey that I've kind of disclosed with you guys is just kind of like, I've loved product and, you know, studied under that, where it was just kind of like, oh, I want to do this like the real way. So it was blind faith, just dumb decision. I have a personality trait that's just like, yo, let's just send it. Even like some of the opportunities I was telling you earlier in the week was like, yo, we're way under bandwidth to do this, but we have to jump when they say jump. So that's a part of business, is like, you can't just sit there, because if you sit there and you're like, I can't pull it off because of this, I can't pull it off because I'm too young, I can't pull it off because I don't have enough money, I can't pull it off because this, it's like, you just got to go. And if you really want to do it, you'll figure it out. And then you'll learn, you'll really you'll dig deep and find out about yourself. Like, do I really want to do this, or do I just like the thought of it? And when you're, like I said, almost in year 10, it has to mean you really wanted to do it if you can make it out that far. You know, most people start something, they'll drop it the year of, because the first drop or the first episode or the first this they do, like, didn't really hit off. I don't want to figure out how to pop it off. You know, I just wanted it to pop off instantaneously, you know?
For sure. I like that. Have you had any like troubles with, I mean, it's an international manufacturer. How has it been working with someone completely outside of the country with, you know, communication and all the other things that go through it? How has it been? How's that process been?
Yeah, to keep it short, I mean, it's never easy, but it goes back to what I'm saying. Like, you really want to do it, you make it happen. So like, you know, we have production that happens overseas on some garments on the Asia side, and that has me up at starting calls at 8 p.m. to answering at 4 a.m. And then Italy on Europe side, they start at 7 o'clock is like 3 p.m. their side. So just being on the different time zones is one thing. Obviously, then you have language barriers, and then you have stylistic barriers, meaning like, oh, you may have a vision for them, and if you're not extra clear, a European style shoe is very different than an American style shoe, or a European last and shape is very different than an American style last, or what's just trending right now, you know? So those are the initial complications. And then you have so many different other talking points of just production in general, making sure you're super clear. The process, even shipping, even in the early days when you don't have any revenue coming in, shipping to Europe or Asia is $150 for one sample. And then you pay for the sample, then you're $1,000 in on your second sample, and just swallowing that pill. That's at its bare bones, the initial complications, you know. And if you're worried about that stuff, then it is a scary journey. But if you really want to do it, you're just like, all right, I'm going all in, you know, all chips are on the table.
Yeah. I think you focus a lot on quality and consistent good quality with your brand. How have you been able to maintain that over the years at like such an aggressive price point too, I feel like?
Yeah, I think that's always been the MO for the brand. For us, it was just like creating, for me, the simplest way is creating timeless product at the best possible way that I and the team are able to do. You know, it's not about, hey, this is the best product in the world. We're going to sit here, look in the eyes like, hey, we know in Europe, in our perspective, does the best product, best raw materials, meaning leather, lining, insoles, things like that, outsoles, natural rubbers. We're going to do our best job curating the best product. In the early days, our product, I could say, wasn't one of the best products out there. It was us learning. It was like, okay, cool. I didn't know what I was doing. Let's make a footwear, let's make footwear. Okay, cool. From here, year one, how do we get better? How do we consistently get better? And like I told you earlier in this interview, it's like, I just am the type of person with my brand, and I never like to say I'm a salesperson of selling the shoes. I'll tell you about the product, just like how I tell you about, yeah, this is how we're breaking it down. This Vibram sole, it's natural up on the outside, filled with polyurethane. That's why it creates that comfort. I rather people know what they're buying, so that translates to how we create product. Is it needs to be, if we're not creating product that is good, or we're able to confidently look a customer in the eye and say, hey, this is exactly why it's X price, then I can't sell the product, or I won't be proud. Like, I just rather not lie to someone's face and be like, yeah, this is a $600 product. Why? It's because my brand's on it. It's art. Yeah, that's one way to approach it. But for me, I just am very like, hey, it's a transactional thing. This is what you're getting. And this is why I believe it's one of the best things out there for that price point. And that's what we try to carry in the mentality. The pillar logo that you guys see on that wall, it's 3 pillars. And that's a design mantra that we live by, which is material, craft, and wearability. Material being using some of the best materials out of Italy, craft being having handmade artisans in Italy, and wearability. I think we do a job. When I used to work at Nordstrom and buy designer shoes, they were never that comfortable. Every single time we have a customer, they're like, they're actually really comfortable. Yeah, it's because we actually spend a lot of time developing the comfort. Whether it's a removable polyurethane insole that separates us from a white EVA insole that will decompress, to a polyurethane lasting board, to a very high quality outsole. Those 3 components create comfort in your shoes and that you're able to wear them all day. Like, if you're spending X amount of dollars, like when you bought these boots last week, I want to make sure that you don't hesitate wearing them, even though they look really good, but they're heavy as hell. I don't want to wear them. Then it's like you never wear it and you're not going to get your dollars worth. Like, even for me growing up with not a lot of money, if I spent $400 or $500, I was like, I want to, like, okay, I would be as silly as like, I'm going to calculate, I'm going to wear them like at least 36 times this month. That equates to, I'm depreciating this, I want to get my dollars worth. Or, as you're younger and you're exploring the fashion, sometimes you'll buy something super loud and you're like, dude, I literally only wear it like once a month, if that. And, you start to learn, like, I want to make sure I can just wear it and it becomes my favorite thing. And I put it on no-braining. No-brainer. So, yeah, that's the perspective on product that we have.
Yeah, cool. I think you have a lot of interest in like non-fashion stuff too. Obviously, like with furniture, I love the taste that you've curated here. I'm super into mid-century modern style too. I'd love my house to look like this too.
Yeah.
I love it. That and like cars and stuff too. So could you maybe give us a little bit of insight on how you got into this style of furniture, just furniture in general, and cars and just non-fashion interests?
Yeah, I think you guys will find that similarity in that it's a mentality thing. Like, a lot of people just, if you get into sneakers first, if sneakers is your starting point, then it develops into clothing. There's a hashtag back in the day. It was like, people still use it. It's like ID on jeans. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you're like, let me find the most fire jeans that stack on my shoes the right way. Yeah. So then you get into fashion. And then after fashion, you're like, oh, you start to think culture and lifestyle. It's like, oh, like I like this X car. I like this X lamp in my room. And then, you know, I think it's so synonymous. Like we'll take from the highest of the highest, Supreme, when they were selling literally a brick. That's lifestyle, right? They literally sold a red brick and people were flipping bricks. But they also made a lot of cool accessories. And even today, they do a USM furniture piece. They do a fridge. They do a motorcycle. They do this. It's like, those are all things that people associate. Like, I like sneakers and I like fashion. And then you're like, oh, but I like to make sure everything else is dialed in. Like, there's so many brands that popped up for like little bracelets that match the sneakers back in the day. I forgot the thing called like Rossiclot, things like that, or just like having a wallet that had cement print on it, or you know, things like that. And that naturally gives me a interest in other things. But for me, again, and it's the root of Collegium, it's like a society or community of product enthusiasts. For me, like when I discover something, I kind of go like obsessively into it. And I'm sure like you guys do the same thing. It's like, why is this? So for me, it was cars. Like, oh, what's the most fire classic BMW I can get into? And it started with Japanese JDM cars, and then it became Euro cars. And then I started studying really hard. Like, I don't like to do anything half-ass where it's like, yo, I really want to know about it. And then it goes back to how the perspective of our product. I don't like to get into something and just not know anything about it. It's like, why do you like that BMW? It's like, oh, I know why it was popular. I know why it won races. I know what colors were out there. I know the production dates, you know? So it's the same thing with shoes. Like, oh, are those Tiffany Dunk Lows? Oh, 05. Let me see the barcode size tag on the inside. Yeah, see, this is the production window that it has. Fakes won't have that. It's like getting that granular into it. You know what I mean? Or the tag should be this material. And that then becomes synonymous to watches, furniture, clothing, cars. And for me, it's like just a lifestyle. Like, for me, it's like, it sounds arrogant. It's just like just having your own taste and knowing who you are. So it's like, for me, it's like, yo, like this is the stuff I like. And I'll get inspired by a car, a colorway, a fabric on a car, which is why we've done fabric, you know, tote bags out of car upholstery, you know.
Yeah,
but it's just like,
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, does your lifestyle and like outside fashion interests kind of bleed into your brand? And
all the time. Like literally, the store we're sitting in right now just has just cars, MCM furniture, postmodern furniture, just like a mixture of just things that I'm into, space age furniture, just like things I'm into, and just like this is literally what I'm scouring the internet for in physical form. You know, our next store is literally me on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, throwing offers on really cool, rare things that I like. Like, oh, I wanted to buy that regardless, whether open the store, and I'll figure out how to make it work in our next store. You know,
that's cool. I love that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Have you seen your like style evolve over the years? I think like naturally in anyone's fashion progression, you know, looking at me, I started in the hype beast era with sneakers, wearing Off-White and Supreme, and then obviously now I'm not, kind of more low key and kind of finding my style more as I get older. How has your style evolved over the years, and how is that transcribed into like your brand too?
Yeah, I think we all just go through it. Everyone goes through it. We have our cringeworthy eras, you know, whether it's stacked ripped denim with, you know, some Chelsea boots or XYZ. You know, you follow, if you're into that stuff, you're into sneakers, you're going to be very aware, and digital age has allowed us to see so many micro trends super fast, and you're like, can I do that? And I think as you start buying into smaller trends, you're like, that's actually really not me, you know. And you go back to, you always like zero in. Like, I've always just been like pair of trousers, plain t-shirt, and the focal point is footwear for me. And I think I just find, for me, it's, you know, experimenting with micro trends, which is totally normal and fine, and realizing, oh, that's not me, that's not for me. I'm just like a clean cut dude, and I like what I like. And now it's like even expanding that, it's like vintage Americana, but like not too picky, where it's like I'll wear an M1 jacket and, you know, a pair of Dickies 874s, and that's like uniform for the rest of my life. But like, how do you find these little tidbits that like make it a little bit more special? Or like, oh, I like this distressing on something. Can I find something that's a variant of that? And just like, yo, this is my next 50 years. And I think as you get older, you start to buy things that are just like, can I wear this for the next 10 years? Like, I'm sure you guys, I think you're a little younger than me. So like, you'll buy something like, dang it, I just lost. Like, I don't want to, like, next year you might not want to wear that.
I've been talking to them about it a bunch. Like, I think I have a bad habit of buying a bunch of statement pieces.
Yeah.
So I'll buy a bunch of I look sick. But then it's like, well, I'm only going to wear that like once a month, like you've said. And it's like, dang, like maybe I should start getting into just buying stuff that I can wear like for the rest of my life.
And I think it goes along, you know, you have to think of life. Like it's easy to zoom in and you want to be a part of these fast fashion trends and what's hot and not.
Yeah.
But then you think about life and you're like, is my wallet growing with these like statement pieces that I'm buying? And then you're like, dang it, I'm stuck on this for the next, like, I can't, like, then you like zoom out and you're like, dang, I just bought this $1,800 jacket or $1,800, you know, pair of trousers. And you're like, oh, I can't even keep up with the next one. So like, this isn't really me. Like, so then you zoom out, like, how do I find my identity of like, I'm just going to wear this and I'm super comfortable in that skin instead of trying to chase the next hot thing? Because at the end of the day, once you chase and then your lifestyle can't keep up, you're like, dang, I look silly still wearing my $2,000 pair of biker rip denim. And I spent every last paycheck on it and I can't wear this for the next 5 years. And I also don't feel comfortable wearing it. So I think that it's a natural journey and there's nothing wrong with like finding that. You have to go through that so you can discover. So for me, it's like, I'm not chasing any fast fashion. It's like, yo, I'm not trying to put myself in a position where I'm like, yo, like, it's just not me. I'm just going to wear what I like, you know? And then this is my style, you know?
For sure.
And you still get inspired and influenced by like, okay, this micro trend, how do I twist it and kind of just make it my own thing? You know what I mean? So yeah, to answer that question.
Yeah. Talking about trends too more, how important would you say trends are in your brand and, you know, designing new product and stuff? Do you say like, you kind of just pave your own way in the brand, or do you follow trends pretty closely? Just how important are they?
Yeah, I think we had a long conversation in the shop of like, trends are important and they're not important. We have a customer that comes through our doors that they're like, hey, I have a career in XYZ. I know what my fashion is. I'm a younger or older customer. I just like know what I like. I'm a classic vintage basketball low top dude with a pair of trousers and a white t-shirt and maybe a denim jacket. And that customer comes in and they buy our Destroyers, which has been around since 2018. And sneakers right now aren't necessarily the trend. Everyone wants to get into derbies, boots, penny loafers, whatever. It's just that cyclical era. And then in a couple years, sneakers will be back again, hotter than ever. It goes like that. In 2015, Jordans were super hot. And then 2017, Chelsea boots were super hot. And then you went back to 2018, all of a sudden, neutral gray Jordan 1s were hot. And Panda Dunks, cringe Panda Dunks were hot. And then now we're in the derby loafer, that era, you know what I mean? And Gorpcore boots, that's kind of like the era. And then it'll go back to sneakers again. So trends are important, but also like we don't try to get blindsided by that. It's like we know what we want to create. And for me, the creation for Collegium is always just it's the reimagined rotation, timeless rotation of footwear. So whether that be, okay, we have our low top vintage basketball sneaker, we have our low tops vintage tennis sneaker, we have our low top penny loafer, we have our mock toe derby, we have our boots, we have our waffle trainer. And it's like just creating for me over the last 20 years of just collecting sneakers, just creating for me what my rotation of footwear would be for people and timing it right at the same time. So that's where trends come in. Our next silhouette is a low top waffle trainer, and we're going to consider our driver's sneaker because I'm super into cars, and we're going to figure out how do we intertwine cars, a very low profile waffle trainer. Like you've guys seen the Mexico 66 pop off. You've seen the Nike Bodhi pop off. You've seen the New Balance Miu Miu pop off. That's the era that's coming off because it's 2 degrees left of Adidas Samba Special Gazelle, where people are like, I'm not trying to wear Sambas anymore. It's becoming the Panda Dunk. And now they're like, oh, I'm on the Mexico 66. You can only get them in Japan now, you know? And everyone loves that trend. It's like, okay, cool. We were going to create something like that. This is the time to have it. The design's already in the archive. Let's launch it because timing's right, you know? So I think being knowledgeable about trends and when trends are there and having that silhouette ready to go. Like we have a sample in the back that was from 2017. We're like, oh, it's time to launch this shoe because it's super hot. Yeah. But for us, it was always just creating what is the ideal rotation of footwear? What does every guy, girl should have in their closet? Hey, you should have one pair of lace-up derbies. You should have a pair of loafers. You never know when you're going to have to dress up, but you want it, your styling, the color blocking in your styling, the materialization in your styling. You should have a Stan Smith-like, Samba-like shoe in your rotation. You should have a Jordan 1 Blazer Terminator type shoe in your rotation. You should have a ACG, Roa, DMA type boot in your, you know what I mean? So like for us, it's, what is our vision of those types of silhouettes, you know?
For sure.
So yeah.
I think you're creating a brand image that feels very unique and like it feels very cohesive. But at the same time, I think it's wide enough where it can reach a very wide audience, like you've mentioned in the past. So how do you kind of bridge that like balance of, you know, creating a unique look that stands out in this huge oversaturated fashion area, but also being able to reach a wide enough audience that like you can be successful, I guess, successful business?
Yeah, we don't have the answer to that, but all we can lean on is just like believing in what we believe in and saying like, hey, we don't need to follow the trends sometimes, so we just need to lean into our clean styling. So I think it's just like identify like all of our shoes, really no big branding on it, has identifiable center stripe that has a reverse stitching that doesn't have stitching on the stripe. Our color blocking that we usually do, our materialization, we always take pride in because we go to Italy like 4 times a year and go to a bunch of tanneries. Like, what's the next interesting thing that we want to use? Or do we have that in our repertoire, you know? And I think it's just like playing around with that, launching some new silhouettes every now and then. But we don't want to be a brand with 100 silhouettes. We want to be like In and Out, Raising Cane's menu. Like, we're good with like 15 solid items. And these 15 items will be something that can be shared with your kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I fell into footwear. It's like, my dad gave me my first pair of Stan Smith and he kind of took me sneaker shopping, you know, like as I got older and wanted actually to pick my own shoes, like, oh, these are really good, real leather, things like that. You want those types of moments. You want that timeless moment that you can share with, you know, pass it down, I guess, as corny as it sounds, like generational worth of like these shoes. We want people to buy Collegium and be like, yo, like we see it all the time. A dad and son will buy their pair and they share that moment, you know what I mean? And that's super cool. Or it's like, yo, like, I'm going to save these, and a customer will be like, I'm going to keep these for my kids. You know, like I had a customer that bought it's not a shoe, but it was a short jacket, and he got like his son's name on the chain stitch event. And he's like, oh, I just want to hand this down to my kids there. You know, it's
cool.
And that's like for us, timelessness at its essence. You know?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think a lot of brands, newer brands in this day and age that, you know, startup brands, Instagram brands per se, I think we've talked about this. They get stuck in creating such a niche vibe, a niche look that only appeals to a certain audience. How are you able to steer away from that? Where I think it's like important to create a unique look, but it's also very important to not get stuck in, oh, it only appeals to this very small niche crowd, and I need to appeal to a wide crowd to be a successful business.
Yeah, I think it's just a strategy. It's not even a strategy. It's just like what I want to do. So I don't go into thinking like, how do we do something better than somebody else? You know, like I'm just like, yeah, let's just be us and hope that there's an audience for us. So like off the dome, just trying to answer your question. I think it's great to speak to a particular audience over and over again and really get a heavy following from there. But I think once you capture that audience, how do you then make something for everybody else? And it's really your viewpoint on the product. If you want a product that services 500 people, you're more than welcome to just, I'm going to keep dabbling down on the 500 people. But like for us, I think the vision is grander. And I think we've talked about it in the shop. It's like, we believe Collegium could be a household name, and we believe it can be from a 5-person team to a 500-person team to a 5,000-person team. And we believe our vision for product can be a household thing where it's like, again, like sharing that story of a father and a son. Like it could be the kid that's super into the drop that we do, but it could just be also in the dad, like, wait, these are really good quality, and I just like the all-white pair, and I want that. You know what I mean? Like simple, timeless things. So we try not to narrow down and get so focused on how do we get the kids that are on Instagram, early adopters, and trying to be fashion, you know, really wanting getting into these micro trends, because at the end of the day, fashion is fickle. And myself as a victim of like, oh, I really liked this X look. Even like, let's just say right now, bootcut flare jeans. Do you not find yourself going, I want to go more just slim, not slim straight, but regular straight, and like keeping it chill. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's an evolution of like what becomes more timeless and things like that. And we know that those things are temporary.
I think we've kind of been talking about these like Instagram brands, small up and coming brands. I think to me, it seems pretty obvious that business is very important to you.
Yeah.
Maybe even you take business a lot more seriously than other creatives, other brand owners. Why is this? Like, why is business so important to you?
Yeah, it's just stuff that we talked about in the shop. Again, I hate to keep saying that, but it was just like, you know, for me, going into sneakers, going to fashion, I've I feel like I've seen it all, or I've seen my good fair share of what fashion can look like. And it's bigger. It goes back to community. It goes back to the business, the family that you're building when you start a company. I'm sure you guys have all been a part of it or wanting to be a part of it. I used to intern for fashion brands for 2-3 years for free. And, at the same time, you want your life, your financial and professional life to progress. So being a part of that kind of things and not necessarily wasting time, because you have to pay your dues. You have to learn how the game is. You see, like, man, when brands stay small, there's nothing for a team bigger than more than 5. Then you're stuck in this, hey, I'm just the intern here for 3 years, or I'm just the sales associate for 6 years, and I want to build a company or a brand that the early team and the future team can build real careers out of. And I don't think you can do that by just servicing a micro trend. In order to do that, you have to build a company. So I hate to sound corny, but it's like you think of these big aspirational companies like a Tesla and things like that. People have careers. I have friends that are bought in houses and things like that. And in fashion, it's a lot harder to do, but I believe you could do that. But it's definitely not sticking to this super small, way of doing it. I want to think big, and I want to genuinely create a platform where not necessarily I was a part of, but it's like, hey, I knew exactly what I was getting into when my early days into fashion and just helping out brands or interning or working for, even like sneaker stores, like one-off sneaker stores where I'm like, oh, I'm only gonna, like, what's the future? You know what I mean? So if my brand leaders or my brand founders don't have the vision to be something bigger, then there's writing on the wall for me. And you have to just look in the mirror, whether you're a part of that team, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm totally content being an associate here, and I'm totally content building my whole life being a store associate. That's just your decision. But for us in Collegium, we want to create a platform. It's like, hey, we're trying to do big things so that you have an option to say, hey, I want to grow within this company here, and I want to be here for a long ride. And I think we can do a lot more than just me being one associate at the store. So it's just pressing you. It's like where I say we're going to open 2-3 more stores this year. It's for me being, I guess, I hate to say it, the visionary for us or the leader for us, where it's like, hey, I don't want you to just be the associate. Because if I stay here, even though we're crushing it at the shop is only going to be as big as the plaza will allow us to be. So if I don't choose to bite off more than we can chew, then I'm not working for you. Like, it's a two-way street. I hate to even saying this is cringe because I just think of everyone on our team as equals, but it's like, yeah, you're working for me, but I'm working for you too. Where I'm trying to bust my ass so that we can create a career for you. So it's a two-way street. So no, it's as much hard work that you are putting in to service the customers or build the small little content pieces that we got, or just as simple as retying laces, like all those attention to details that my team puts in, we can't do it without them. And they, I want to repay that by like, hey, like, let's just keep riding. And, you being here for the next 5 years at the store isn't my final vision. Yeah. It's like, oh, I want you to be the creative director. I want you to be the art director. I want you to be the sales manager. I want you to be the operations director. Whatever you and your career want you to be, like, I want to build that platform. And people on the team, our team's getting bigger every day. They might not know what they want. They're just here to be part of the team. But it's like, oh, it's my job to make sure that we can go beyond that. And I think I've been a part of different fashion brands or companies and been and seen the scene where you see these very niche focused brands not go beyond that because they're so focused on just that niche, and like, oh, I'm content selling 50 pairs of shoes because I make 10 grand every drop. But that's only thinking about yourself. So for me, it's the human aspect. I want to do this. I don't want to ride this journey alone. Yeah. If I wanted to do this, if I wanted to make X amount of money just for myself, I'd rather just work corporate. You can make way more money just going to a tech company and doing that. But that's a singular check-in, check-out journey. And for me, I want to do something special with a group of people, and just do something that we burned our own, paved our own path,
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. I think, it's very commendable being very selfless. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't do that. Which kind of leads me to the next question, Discord, bro. Discords have been a huge part of your journey too. You've collabed with Discord. How did that even come up? I'm so curious about that because I think so many other brands, if they were in your shoes, would never even take that chance to collab with such a non-fashion brand. I think so many people wouldn't even think about doing that. So why did you choose to do that, and how did that even come up?
Yeah, well, shout out Julie and Corey, Eric. How that all came about is just like just being genuine with it. We started a Discord, and it was just creating a community. It was pretty much replicating what I enjoyed so much in the forums. And in those forums, there was a general chat to just talk about brands I was a fan of. There was a what did you wear today? Because I was trying to find how do I wear this with that? You know what I mean? There was a ID on jeans section. There was a buy sell trade section. There was a sizing section. And we just wanted to recreate that because we knew we had a pool of customers or audiences that I was like, I'm sure they want that same exact experience that I wanted when collecting sneakers. So that's how the Discord was created. And then how it came about is that we created that Discord exactly for that reason. And some of the marketing directors and things that were a fan of the brand and were like, oh, this is a cool way to use Discord. And Discord isn't just for gaming where I was using it on freaking Call of Duty or, whatever games. You could use it to build a brand and build a community. And that was interesting to them, which then later positioned ourselves like, hey, let's do a project together because everyone's using it for NFTs at the time, which all flopped. NFTs, gaming. And for us, they're like, yo, we love how a brand owner can use it to create community and we want to showcase this. And yeah, it crossed my mind, like, how do we make this cool, quote unquote cool, right? But it wasn't about cool for me. It was just like the genuine feeling of like, look, I'm down to do a collab, but the collab needs to be for our community and genuinely for that. So I don't want to sit here and say we can sell Collegium X Discord. And that's exactly what we didn't want to do. We wanted to sell, hey, this is our community. We love our community. So let's do this project for you guys. The only reason we have this Discord collab is because of the community that supports us. So we angled it for Discord. It's like, hey, if you want to just like, it's brand awareness and exposure and how brand owners can use Discord, this is how we use it. Let's just give away these shoes. If you guys are down to buy 100 pairs of shoes, we'll give them away and it'll be a thank you to the community and to showcase how you can use Discord to really cultivate community for your brand or your community or your, collective group of people. So that's how it came about. That's how we position it. And that's how we still run it to this day.
Yeah. I love that, bro. I think community is very, very important to you.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that physical lasting connection is very important to you. So, how important is it having a physical store? I think a lot of other brands, the easy route is, we're just going to sell everything online. There's no overhead on a store and rent and associates. It's like, we just sell it online. We make money. That's cool. I think it's usually a big risk for people to have a physical store. And I think in this day and age, retail is just in a weird space right now. So I just talk a little bit more about that importance of a physical connection.
Yeah, I think it's super important. I think the reason why we're sitting here today is just that physical store. Like, you probably could have DM'd me 30 times and I'm like, dude, it's just, there's too many things going on. But like seeing you hungry for your passion and, your friends doing it, it's like, I remember starting too. So like, I want to help out. And just you actively coming into the shop and just connecting and me actively just being here every day and putting in the work. It's like, look, respect. I'm gonna tune in and dap up with you guys and make sure that it happens. That's one point, is connecting with your people, the people that you're speaking to. But also, like I told you, like 90% of the customers that walk through the door never heard of Collegium. So doing cool viral things or making the next reel or doing the next content piece is always cool on Instagram, but it also loses a human aspect. And with footwear, it's one of the most high involvement purchases, because I could buy an extra large t-shirt and if it don't fit me, I'm gonna figure out, I'll crop it, I'll do this, or I'll make it happen. And it's not that high of an expense. With shoes, if my shoes is one size too big, like I'm not really trying to wear that, but I spent $500. So shoes, us being shoes innately wants us to have retail, and it's super important. We've had customers that have been the case study. I've been a fan of the brand. I live in Silver Lake. I've been following for 4 years, but I don't have my first pair. Okay, cool. But when you guys opened your shop, I came and they ended up walking out with 4 pairs of shoes. Like, I can't believe it took me this long. I'm just super old school with shoes. So that's another touch point. A third touch point, again, is just like that new customer base. Like, I really believe in the human aspect of business, where it's like, hey, when you come in, our prerogative isn't to like sell you shoes. Our prerogative is to give you a good experience. And there's so many brands digital right now. And I think that's the importance. Like you said, retail's in a weird space, but it's important to have a human connection with a community, because you're able to create long-standing relationships with these people. And I guess you could say, as cringy it sounds, returning customers, So for me, there's so many brands online right now, and I think you guys are finding it. It's like, I see you're wearing Fugazi. Fugazi is great. They're early in these kind of like Instagram brands. But then now there might be 20 lookalikes to Fugazi. There might be 20 new brands. Like, how do you know what to fall in love with? Like, even myself, a consumer or product, I'm like, dang, I just saw this really sick brand. And the next day I just found another one and another one.
It's so easy to make a sick brand now.
Yeah. The barriers to entries have dropped, and it's just so, again, like you said, I don't want to say easy. I don't want to underplay it, but a lot of people have brands that are dope.
For sure.
And it being digital, I find myself like, I don't know which one to buy. I don't want to be the guy that buys the non-cool one or the one that's like a knockoff of the other one.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, close my eyes. I would rather just go back to physical. And I think there's an appetite for that, where people are going into physical shops like, dude, I could give two craps about what brands popping on IG. I just want human experience again, and I want to go in, walk into a store and discover something, be like, this is dope. And I honestly don't care if I bought the hottest, coolest IG brand, because at the end of the day, there's gonna be another one next week. So I would rather just have a super dope connection. And I think like what you and I have, like, where it's like, you came in, and I think I'll say this as humbly as possible. You came in, you bought your first pair, you're like, I'm probably good for a while, right? You're like, oh, I have my only Collegium and I only need one. And then you bought the boots and you're like, I kind of need every pair now. But I don't think it was just because you're a type of consumer that, I'm not trying to wear Collegium every day because it's too fanboys. But I think you and I just becoming boys from the shop, you're like, yo, it doesn't matter if I'm not a fanboy. I can just calmly say, yo, I know Nick, I go to the shop and I had a really good, I would rather support him than some IG person that doesn't give two shits about me. And then, you know, when I do walk out and I'm like, oh, I look like a ex fanboy of this, and I don't even know that brand or have any human connection to it. And that's for me, where it's like, it's hard. Trust me, it's hard. Everyone wants, and no one will say it, everyone wants that ego thing, like, you know what brand I'm wearing, this is fire. Or I know, I'm a gatekeeper. Oh, you want to know what this is? I can't tell you. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to be a gatekeeper, but I think deep down, all it's like, yo, I just kind of buy. Like, for me, I try to live and die. Like, I just buy what I like. I don't care if it's hot, the next hottest brand. And that's hard. From collecting sneakers, of course, it's easy. Like, yeah, I got Yeezy 2s on plats. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, it's easy to say that, but also I'd be buying weird stuff, milk crate blazers from Japan, and I'm like, I just like this. Or yeah, I like the baby bear dunks. That's like my sneeze or whatever. I like that because of this product story, and you don't have to like it. And I think as you get older, you get more comfortable. Like, I just buy what I like. And even if I don't like it, I just really resonate and can respect the grind for that person.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, you've mentioned multiple times, like, it's important to know a story that's behind this, that's lasting. And I just want to make this comment before I ask my last question. I think that's what I've always looked into. Every brand or person I've interviewed for the magazine, that's what's really important to me. I think you can tell right off the bat if someone's just about to make money, or if they're about it for the community, for a lasting experience. And I think I just want to say, like, I think it's very obvious with you, like, what you're trying to create is a story behind it for someone, you know, a lasting experience. I think it's not, you're not just in it for the money. So I commend that.
And I think, did I not hit the nail on the head about your journey into Collegium? It's like, yo, like, I'm probably good on one, but then it's like, yo, I'm more than happy to buy another one. And it is a stretch. It's a $400 boot. So we appreciate your business. And I want to make sure that even if we're on podcast or not, it's just my genuine thank you. Like, yo, Camden, I know you probably would rather spend, like, I want to get other statement pieces, like, you know what? I'd rather just pay for this $400 boot because Nick's actually dope. He's doing a podcast with me. That's cool. And I respect it.
And it's an awesome shoe too.
Yes, I mean, I'll be humble with that. It is a good shoe, but I think it's like, yo, like, you create those human interactions with people, and it's like, yo, like, honestly, I could go buy a Roa and post like, yo, I got the new Roas, or I got the new White Mountain Engineering X this something. And it's like, but that doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, all the products that you buy, even if it's the most hype ones, they lose the hype and they end up being resell nothing. We see it on the store at the store all the time. So it's like, well, shit, I'm gonna get $20 from Second Street when they trade it in, whether it's this shoe or that shoe. But I might not even want to trade it, because like, yo, like, I wore my stuff to the ground because it was just a honest, real buy that I bought because Nick's the homie, and, you know, he did me right, showed me right, treated me with respect in the store. So like, I have no reason to resell it. And that's like, I guess, our innate way of combating, are we oversaturating the product market with product? And it's like, no, we're hopefully creating a relationship where people like wear their stuff because they really respect the brand. Like, I just, one, think it's a really good product, and two, I'm just gonna wear it till it's done because I'm a fan of the brand and what they're doing. And it has nothing to do with resale. It has nothing to do with what am I gonna get with this? What kind of clout am I gonna get this? Can I make a reel and get 1 million likes on this? Like, I just like the product for the product, and I like the journey, and I like the story of it because I could see myself in that. And that's as pure as it can get. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's what we hope to achieve.
Yeah, for sure. Last question I have for you. I always love asking people this. What's like you got any future plans? I know you do. You have, you're always working. You mentioned you're working 6 months to a year, in the future all the time. Maybe hint out a little bit to our people, our audience of, what you got in the future, any new stores, any collaborations, like what's in the works?
Yeah, so I think we've already hinted it on this episode here, is that we have, I'll just speak it into existence, even though it's probably not the best thing to do, but we're gonna have 3 stores coming this year. One of the stores is a full circle moment for me, is hopefully popping up across the street in the major mall, number 2 mall in the world in terms of volume, and I used to work in that mall. So for us to go, I worked at Nordstrom, to be carried at Nordstrom, to potentially opening a store in that mall
awesome, bro.
is an insane story.
Yeah.
And, just a kid growing up out here, we used to go to that mall all the time. It's the mall, and that's a personal vendetta where it's like, opening a store in the mall I used to work at, not just being carried in that mall, but opening a store with the likes of Louis Vuitton, Patek, everything, like these major brands, like, we're here too. And we did this from the ground up, from my little Honda Civic trunk to where we're at, hopefully in the next coming months, to opening our next spatial design store, which I share with you, which is cars, coffee, and Collegium.
Did you mean to do that on purpose? 3 C's?
No, it was actually intentional. So it's like, perfect, but it's incidentally what we're already into. It's cars, coffee, and Collegium. It's 3 pillars, it's 3 C's. It's just, it's just synonymous across the board. So that's something else we're excited to. And just a lot of the new silhouettes, a lot of the new brand direction that we're going into is all part of what we got going on, so a lot of exciting things. This is the moment to kind of close the episode. We'll probably be taking a break from any of the magazines or podcasts we're doing. So this is probably my last one for the next year. We're just really focusing in. We feel very confident and very passionate. In these next 6 months are the defining moments of the brand. And I will say this and hope that it is real, that these six months that we're doing is the defining moments where we put our head down and say, hey, the 6 months that we have here can change what we're doing with the brand for the rest of our lives, So that's what we're going to be focusing on, the next stores, the next concept spaces, the next designs. And this is hopefully the glow up moment,
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm super excited. I've been following you for a couple of years. This guy's been following you forever, bro. So I think it's like it's super exciting to see what you got going on, because it's going to be cool. So.
It's super dope. We're super excited to share it with you guys. Hopefully I can get back on the content pieces of it all.
Yeah.
And let's get to it. So I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, bro. Thank you for that. Bro. I appreciate it, bro.
Super cool.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah.